So what we're gonna learn this week are really like very basic movements that are gonna start allowing you to track and understand how much usable range of motion you actually have access to and how much control you actually have over that range of motion. So you might be asking, what is range of motion? Well, range of motion is how much your joint can move in space, okay? Now there's two types of range of motion. There's active range of motion and there's passive range of motion. Active range of motion is how much you can use. So if I'm moving my arm just like this, I have usable range of motion, right? I'm controlling it. I have some strength, some level of strength. But if I take my arm and I bring it to its absolute end and I just, I put myself against a wall and I push against it and I allow that tissue to stretch and stretch and stretch and stretch, and then I let go, I will notice that I won't be able to control it out there. A lot of people don't have that control because it's more of the passive range of motion. There's no strength and there's no control there. So it's really important not only to build range of motion, but it's really important to be able to control range of motion. We want to know what we can do with what we have available, right? Like, it would be really silly for us to have lots of range of motion. Can you imagine if you had range of motion over here that you had to use your other arm to move around? If it was all passive, you would have very little control of your life. You could not control anything in this area, right? So we want to make sure that whatever range of motion we increase, we actually have a lot of control and strength in that area. And so the movements that we're gonna learn are not only going to help you assess what you currently have available, but eventually down the line, it's gonna help you build strength. And so these movements are really gonna help you assess what you have available in your usable range of motion. And down the line, you can use these movements even as strength training exercises. But right now, we're just gonna learn the basics, the fundamentals, and start getting you moving in ways that you're gonna notice are quite different than what you're used to when it comes to mobility. So there's one rule, and I want you to follow this rule as we move through these movements. It's really important to be really strict and honest with yourself when you're doing the movements, and use lots of mirrors and videos to check out what you're doing. And that rule is, I only want you to move one joint at a time. And so as you move through these mobility exercises, you're gonna notice that some things are gonna move that are not the joint that I'm asking you to move. If I ask you to move your head and you move your entire body, then that tells you and me something about how your brain knows about that area of your body. It essentially means that it does not have a clear picture, or you don't have a clear picture of how to control that part of your body without it compensating into some other part of your body. Same thing with your shoulder. If I ask you to move your shoulder and you rotate and you do something like this, that's your rib cage, that's your low back, maybe my head's moving, right? So I don't want that to happen. And so you're gonna have to control, you're gonna have to squeeze your body, you're gonna have to use your muscles to stop other things from happening while you go through a movement, yeah? So this is a process just like the breathing exercises, and you might be really challenged at some movements might feel easy, some might feel hard. So you're gonna want to give yourself, be patient, give yourself a little bit of a break, and just take your time to see how much can you do yourself at controlling this. So if you notice something is moving that's not the joint that I'm asking you to move, what can you do internally to control that? What can you squeeze? How can you brace yourself? And use the tension inside your body to control what you are trying to do.